Well, unless he has all the docs.
You know, that is a good point. I should probably make sure my instructions.
Just saying, yeah. Oh.
Right.
They're all set. Professor Beaucage?
Yeah.
Was that the correct Canvas login? Because that was CEBU.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't know. No, yeah, it wasn't. No, it's messed up, but I was trying to, if I could get onto Canvas here, yeah, I could do that, but I could pull all the slides. They were out of time, so let's just see if it works this way. I need another one.
Yeah. I forgot to read PowerPoint, but
You turn it into.
yeah. You should be able to link. Oh, you can.
Like on Canvas.
Yeah, that's what
You should be able to find out unless you
just tell.
Don't have it, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Bro, I can't step on my keyboard and my computer died.
Oh,
It sees me active on something.
sorry.
Football, we have technology. Oh, that's not average engineer.
We have technology. You see the controls diagram?
Alright. I doesn't give you the answer.
All right, so I was gonna do mine over industrial composting and how get them all plastics and the end of life plastics specifically. So we've been going over the plastics life cycle. For most of the 1900s, the only goal when designing plastics has been just the utility of the product, not the end of life of the plastics. So that's how we get the plastics that last forever. And recycling has been a big push, but still a lot of plastics end up in landfills. So we've been going over the end of life. There's a majority of it goes to landfill. There's pyrolysis for your controlled burning of plastics, basically melting it down to monomers to try to put it back in the building blocks. And then some of the newer ones like PLA, you can do composting to try to break down the plastics. Though it's much more of a limited thing. You need to use industrial composting, which is different than what your backyard can do. It needs higher or more stricter conditions. And there's also a couple plastics that have biodegradation, which even if they end up in the ocean, they will eventually break down and won't, become a big pile of trash in the middle of the ocean. So the couple points there that the industrial composting needs to have to actually run is that most of the time they need high temperature between 130 and 160 degrees, so you can kill off all the bad bacteria that you don't want, and you want the good bacteria that you want survives at that temperature. You want high pressure, and then you want specific nutrients and ratios of everything in there. If you don't maintain that, it will still work, it just won't work as efficiently. And this is an example of one of the in-vessel composting. This is it's a giant tube, and you shove stuff in one end and it slowly spins around, and you eventually comes out the other end. One of the videos I watched was they had one of these at a pig processing plants. And they would stick sick, dead pigs in the one end, and they would come out the other end in 20 days as dirt. So that's about the process for this. It's not great, but it's it's very effective. So for the biodegradation of plastics, most of it is happening through hydrolysis. So you probably heard about hydroxide radicals in the air and how they break down everything. That's the main process for breaking down all organic material. And on it here, I have listed from like the least to most resistant for the biodegradation, and you're at the least resistant end, you have your alkanes, then your branched alkanes. At the most resistant, you have your high molecular weight aromatics and polar polymers. This is just the list of plastics that, so there's some fossil-based that are biodegradable. So even though they're made from fossil fuels, they still break down at the end. Then there's bio-based and also biodegradable. The only one that we've really talked about a whole lot is the PHB. So plastic that's made from basically the fermentation of material through bacteria. There's not a whole lot of regulations on what is actually biodegradable, but France and Australia has a couple things. But one of their big points when they're marking biodegradable is that those types of plastic need to be underneath a certain thickness. So it depends on the type of plastic, but they range from 40 microns to about 120 microns thickness. So the steps forward to make composting, industrial composting more available is just the first is like, if we have these compostable plastics, maybe we could look into making layered packaging out of the compostable plastics. So that way you can still aim to get those extremely over-engineered packages, but at the end of the day, as long as they go in an industrial composter, they won't fill a landfill for thousands of years, you know? The next step would also be to go along with that is to just make industrial composting more widely available. There's none in Cincinnati area right now, and it's like only sparsely around the United States where you could even get some of these industrial composters. And then also probably take it a step farther and improve the composters to also not only break down materials as they're going, but one of the big things is that you can collect the biogas that comes off of the compost as it's going along, basically methane. So, but a lot of those in-vessel composters don't even bother tracking that or trying to capture that. So that would be another thing to capture to make industrial composting more economically viable. So that's just composting is still circular, it's just a larger circle versus recycling. So they should go hand in hand. Any questions?
You ever seen one of those machines or?
No, but I've talked to my dad who has been to some of those some of those processing plants and seen them. They don't smell good.
So where is it? It's the same thing.
They had,
this
up
is-
in Lima.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
Yeah.
they have a lot of,
Yeah,
like, I think they do chickens
yeah.
processing.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. All right. Well, thanks, yeah, I think we got it. So, on the, HQ office. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, it's been like- let's see, let's go back. Oh, the next person is Society, right? Grad student, I think, was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm going to like present in Zoom.
You're on the, oh, yeah, I see you're here, right?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me turn the volume on that. All right.
So Dr. Beaucage, can you enable the sharing,
Yeah.
screen sharing?
Back on the logistics of this. So. Where's my Zoom? Let's see. You guys know how to get, I don't know how to get back to the, oh, here, there's a video. Yeah. Yeah, all right, so when you, all right, so I have the talks are up here inside the, let me just do that first. So I get that thing up here. All right, so. The talks are inside.
Yeah.
Right here, talks are over, so they're all here, so, I mean, I'll put all of them there, there's up to 7. Right, so, and the speaker list is here, so Mitch will be after. Right, so, now I need to get back to the Zoom. Here, all right, yeah, so you can just go ahead and share if you want.
Zoom or full screen.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, yeah, so you got everybody else to. Go ahead, sounds okay. All right.
So can you see my screen?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sajjadul Alam Rahat, grad student from Material Science and Engineering. Today, I'm going to talk about controlling PAH exposures from tire wear as a part of the final presentation in our course. So how tire debris lead to health hazard? We all know the tire composition consists of rubber polymer, reinforcing agents, and mineral oils. And it is the mineral oils which are mostly responsible for leaching this polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon in the environment. During the whole life cycle of tire, by means of various options during the recycling, during the using this tire creates microparticles, which eventually get consumed or inhaled by human being, which leads to the cancer and a lot of other diseases. So it has been always a challenge to control this tire debris and the exposure of PAH to the environment. So in in the tire production units, the minerals oils are mostly highly aromatic oils, and it has been listed that there are like 8 types of carcinogenic oils that are mostly benzoapyrene derivatives that have been like exposed during these tire use and tire productions, and like replacing these highly aromatic oils will reduce PAH emissions to the environment by more than 90%. So so there are various approaches has been like invented, and various practices are already there during the recycle process to reduce the PAH exposure for example, like the treated distillate aromatic extract or mild extractor solvent, where the solvent extraction process followed by this hydrotreating is a very popular method of like recycling process, where the PAH content are actually reduced down to like carcinogenic level. And in terms of like other alternative options, there are like research has been going on using this naphthalenic oils or natural oils, which has low aromatic content. They did some of the options did demonstrate good compatibility with different kind of rubbers, but like their performance is not consistent in terms of mechanical properties and other aspects, as these highly aromatic oils are responsible for making the tires more flexible, and mechanical properties are being enhanced. So this is difficult to maintain all of these properties using other biodegradable options and like natural oils. So one of the biggest challenge of to reduce this PAH emission to the whether it's to like the tire debris collection technology. So like in our classes, we have discussed about these tire collectives where there's like attachment which can be used with the can be used to collect this tire debris when the car is driving. And there are several companies like Urban Filter or EcoSense. They have in a shorter scale, they have developed some sort of like a sediment collection method, which are integrated in like road systems to enhance this tire debris collection efficiency. At the same times, there are some work that I have seen where they propose the integration of this textile filters across these like interstate systems, where these geotex can like filter these tire debris from the like flood water or storm water. In terms of like remediations, there are several practices in chemical remediation methods that has been like popular. One of them is like waste tire pyrolysis oil treatment, where this nickel molybdenum catalysts are very efficient at removing PAH. The efficiency has been estimated around like 66 to 70%. And also like one very common application of this Fenton reaction, which has been applied industrially to get rid of this PAH, but the efficiency is not up to the like mark yet. Recently, it has been like demonstrated that this bacteria and fungi in the presence of various enzymes can be really good options to biodegrade the PAH from the environment. In presence of these enzymes, the bacteria and fungi can break the ring of the aromatic rings, and eventually they produce carbon dioxide. So the efficiency of this bioremediation has been like quite like impressive. So like in this journal, it has been mentioned that the efficiency is around 90 to 95%. But the challenge is the scalability and to integration with the integration with the all systems. So that has been like reported so far. So like if we think about where we're going from here, on the top of my head, I was thinking about the biggest challenge is to like collecting those tire debris, so like it was mentioned in our class, and I saw in the Star Collective that the efficiency of this their attachment is around 50 to 60%. So it is good, but it is not like yet up to the mark. So if we apply some kind of like adhesive attachment, like we use in our interior of the car to hold our like stuffs or in the like the bumper guards. So if we apply something like adhesive in our car, it might be onto these tire collective systems, which will eventually increase the efficiency of this tire debris collection. And at the same time, another thing that can be implemented is that like improving the road surface design. And like some publications has been done where this porous asphalt has shown a good filtration system, primary filtration systems in the road in the road system, where this porous asphalt can eventually capture those tire debris, and when the like rainwater or stormwater washes through this like porous material, those like tire debris can be eventually captured in the geotextile. So this can be like pretty good options to apply across the like road systems. But also there are some like drawbacks as well, because all know, you know, that this flood water or storm water or rain is not like readily available in all across the country. And later on, also like there's one like a project that has been demonstrated in the lab scale, that this LiDAR system, light detection system, has been implemented with the vehicle to see how the tire is being like eroded and how these like particles can be exposed onto the into the environment. And I think this kind of like sensing systems or detection systems has to be like scale up. It is scalable, and I think this if this LiDAR system can be scale up and integrated with the like our communication systems, it will improve capturing more this tire debris systems, as well as it will reduce this PAH exposure to the environment. And definitely this has to be like a collective effort from like a R&D, from the government and policymaker point of view, and from the like consumer point of view. So like from R&D sectors, like non-carcinogenic oils for like tire productions has to be rigorously like investigated, and like vehicle design can be improved by integrating different kind of sensing systems, by implementing different kind of like tire debris collection technology. This overall tire exposure can be tire wear exposure can be improved. And from government and policymaker point of view, like different kind of regulatory measures can be taken. For example, like a mandatory tire wear monitoring system can be implied, or establishing like different like strict standard for tire compositions can be implied. And another like pretty important like thing that government can like improvise here is that to increase this road surface optimizations to capture more tire debris from these interstates and different kind of like free expressways as well. And importantly, they can also like offer tax breaks for the manufacturers who are producing these eco-friendly tires, and at the same time from in the consumer ends as well. So when the consumers can can be implemented, can be integrated into the recycling programs, where they will be like there will be some incentive. So it will eventually increase the public awareness and educations, at the same time reduce this pH exposure to the environment. So far, this is the some kind of like short like presentation that I prepared for this topic. Thank you for listening to me, and like you can ask me anything regarding this.
We gotta move on, but anyway, I have some questions, but basically, I think we gotta move on, like Mitch, because we're going to 5 minutes. Yes, I'm sure. Oh my gosh, questions so hard. Here's all this stuff. Let me.
These are mine now. What are you?
Oh, yeah. Where's the sugar? Yeah. Oh, it's so much. Well, you know what's really funny? The one right there that just says plastics. That's me. Or insurance.
one, not the one that's further down.
Let's try,
Also called plastic vinyl.
Let's see. Should, I see, mine has a capital there, what does that mean? Just one of the other things. Why is there a difference?
Yeah.
Well, I should just be able to get on Canvas and download it.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh, if you're into by who's going, so yeah, that one is mine.
Oh, so that would make that as small. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
So that's all you had to say.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with your stuff.
Seven. I'm not, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he signed into his.
Is that what everybody's?
Well, the thing is though, is that.
I have a feeling you guys can get some.
Yep. Thank you. So my name is Mitchell Peter. I did, we're obviously addressing the question of where are we going from here? And specifically, I'm talking about the book, The Plastic Paradox, by Christy Arment. A little bit of background with that. I did during a co-op, I wrote like an article. It was one of my tasks I had to do. Wrote an article which kind of like summarized the book. And I think it's pretty relevant to the course. Basically, the book kind of challenges some like popular views on plastics and their environmental impact. And the purpose of this presentation will kind of clarify some misconceptions and explain based on the misconceptions, like what is the what is the next step for addressing global circularity, and also I'll just focus on like improving recycling and sustainability. So there are some misconceptions about plastics, and by the way, I do have the PDF to the book, so if anybody wants to take a look at it, the articles, whatever, I can send it over your way. Some of the, yeah, I can, and I do have a site at the end of this too, but I can just directly say. Some common beliefs are that plastics are a major contributor to global warming. They take thousands of years to degrade. They pose significant, like microplastics pose significant risk. And also, what's that?
Where did you go up? You said.
I co-opted at Plastilite up in Columbus.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's kind of small. And then some alternatives such as like aluminum, glass, paper, and even cotton are better for the environment. And then also like public campaigns. So there's like calls for like shifting away from plastics, or it's kind of more rare, but even like getting rid of plastics. And they don't really look at the full, environmental impact that would cause. So kind of like the present day here, there are like life cycle analysis that the book kind of goes into, looking at all the life cycle analysis of like plastic, aluminum, like paper, and turns out that plastics actually have a lower carbon footprint than alternatives such as aluminum, glass, and paper. And again, even cotton, I just have listed a few here. And replacing PET, for example, with aluminum would actually double CO2 emissions. So it'd be pretty detrimental to the earth. Some misplaced blame is out there as well. There's a large problem that actually relies with the waste management and consumer practices than does with plastic production. There's a lot that plastic production can do, and I'll get into that. But for example, like Lithuania, they recycle 75% of their plastic. We do about 9%. So there's a huge gap that we're just missing. And again, there's some stuff that producers can do, but it's possible to recycle this, and it's a behavioral issue as well. Needs to be talked about more. people need to be recycling more, but I'll get into that as well. So also, again, like the reality of plastics, there's like microplastics. The book kind of goes in and looks at all of the articles about microplastics. And he finds like a bunch of like flawed data, exaggeration. Like for example, one of them was using like 10 times the concentration of plastic, or I don't know, I forget, but basically he was finding.
Aerobic, anaerobic, like you say raising soil, is that with oxygen? Is that what it means?
Yeah, so I can go into. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. This is just straight from his slides, and you can look at like his, like I kind of did look into like some of the resources he had and whatnot, but I do know that. Like,
I put up a thing, it said like 1,000 years for polyethylene. But I have a polyethylene chair in the yard, and it's degraded, you know?
right, yeah,
It
so
fell apart.
again,
So
I think there's a
so
lot of
exactly.
misconceptions
Yeah.
and different things.
Yeah.
But his results and his findings show that it actually, like in a landfill in the soil, it degrades at a very similar rate as like paper, biofilm and whatnot. So just kind of what he was finding. And then I'll kind of go into like the future. So there, like I said, there's producer responsibility. Simplified designs for, I think we were talking a lot about this. We have to make sure that make it easier for the recycling companies. So this is all about making it easier to recycle because we want circularity. So monolayer plastics, or like I think the first one you were talking about, like if we do not monolayer plastics, then making it like still circular. But then there's also like toxic additives that might be added into these. We have to mandate that and stop that. And then there's also like, there are some plastics that can't be recycled, and there's some plastics that can be recycled but just aren't in the US. So we have to just prioritize the ones that can be recycled in the US or are recycled in the US, whatever. So those are some producer responsibilities. And then there's also like consumer action. It's kind of just like I was saying, like the societal change. I mean, it's not easy to fix it all with a society, but it's one of the keys. There's a lot of litter. The plastic producing companies aren't littering. Maybe some of them are. I don't really know, but a lot of litter is coming from people just throwing stuff away. So reducing litter, boosting recycling, and just supporting an overall circular economy. And then there's also global initiatives. So as you can see, river plastic input to the ocean by region. We're at the 1%.
It's the 2015, so
that's
before we were exporting all our plastic waste to China.
Yeah, so
that's like
there's a little bit of a gap there, but it's almost 90% though. So
yeah, but I mean that's from 2015. I think that's 20 years ago.
Mhm.
So I mean things have changed a lot.
yeah, and I can try to look up some more accurate data. This is just based on the
Yeah, it's
book,
good to see
so
the plastic side of it.
yeah,
That's the point.
yeah.
There are arguments against it.
I'm sure that we probably have increased a little bit. I don't know about 90% increase,
Yeah.
but I'm willing to look into that for you. But as of 2015, we do have an issue of, just kind of global, like we need to be mandating this like globally. And like I said earlier, like Lithuania does achieve 75% recycling rate. So it's possible if we all put out the mandates, put out the global initiatives, if you will.
I guess it should be reduced per capita too. And you see this chart, I see this number, not just in your talk, but in some others. It's not like per capita that would significantly reduce that. So it's like 3 billion people in Asia.
Right.
3 or 4 billion. So
yeah, that's true. But given, they still, there still could be mandates globally that can help solve a lot of the plastic waste and increase recycling and whatnot. Because
it's good.
We may only recycle 9%, and that might be outdated too. But we, So we can do better with recycling and probably, you know, litter too, of course, you see litter all the time. But, you know, some of our, like a lot of our plastic goes to like landfills, which obviously isn't good, but we try to not like make it go into like the oceans and stuff too, which, you know, does happen, but we see that, you know, maybe we, you know, it just needs to be globally, you know, we have to set global mandates, not just local, and which are good. I'm not saying that any of the local or national mandates are bad or, you know, initiatives are bad, but there is a larger problem for sure, so. And then, yeah, I just have some references, but.
That's good.
Anyway,
I mean, it's a lot different than anyone else's because it was like pro plastic, you know. so
yeah,
that
kind of
was-
sort of, I mean. Yeah, I mean,
I agree with a lot of what you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could send you.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, so thank you, Bill. So we can. Yeah. Then, maybe. Oh, yeah.
I'll send you.
I got it.
Never won right there. Yeah, all you need is a little light. Gonna be much better. Yeah, how look at this.
I can figure out how to eat.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not. We kind of the opposites, like.
Should have it on the website, right? The link to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really because.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
that's you.
Well, this is how it gets here.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, we can do this, but
Also, I said, like, the one that works, I'm like, you're better off spending on like Asian. This is terrible.
Sure, go ahead.
Great, that you make it better than like shaving off. Maybe the best thing. I said it all.
yeah, right.
Overseas, these are just like, all right.
I'm not saying.
At least like.
All I'm saying is that if our issue, it's not gonna fix. You know.
We're still logged in. Or not. See how it creates.
I do this next time.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so a bunch of people did like my life or whatever and how it changed my life, which was good. So anyway, I didn't say that. But there. So I thought we could do that. It's more like lifestyle or whatever.
Oh, it's gonna do that soon. Okay. So we're just going to go from the desktop. All right, so where do we go from here? Just talking about how this class has changed how I do things in my life, how I get rid of waste. So, recycling was never a thing when I was growing up. Like grandma had her weird thing going on. Dad didn't worry about it at all. Eventually we got one of those little red rumpy bins, but they only pick that up every 2 weeks. That thing was over full. It was overfilling after like a couple days. And then stepdad didn't believe in it, thought it all went to the trash, so he just threw everything away anyway. So it wasn't really worried about it. Recently moved at the beginning of the semester into my own place. We were at, Walmart getting all the essentials, looking at trash cans. Girlfriend's hounded me to get a second trash bin for recycling, so cool, we'll just start doing that. So found a place that I knew about 20 minutes away from me. It's the closest thing. My condos don't have like a recycling pickup, so just kind of do it on your own. They only took limited items, They didn't take thermoforms or, obviously flexibles, didn't take glass, so a lot of that just went in the garbage. But since this class, I'm starting to make, it's had a subconscious effect on me. Starting to clean the recycle a little bit better, wasn't really good about that before. And then, now I'm kind of making a conscious decision on where I put things, kind of think about where.
I feel like
they
this
go.
is Alcoholics Anonymous meeting.
Say your name and one thing about you.
Yeah, no, mom and dad didn't know about me.
Basically, not just you, but a lot of them are like, I cleaned myself up now. How long is that?
Mom's gluten free now, it's just a bottle. So, yeah, before this class, what I'm putting in the bin, it's just your normal paper, aluminum cans, plastic bottles, flexibles went in the garbage can. You know where to put those. Grocery bags went into the fake, it's not doing that now, fake store drop off in Kroger. Don't do that anymore. And like I said, nearest recycling drop off was 20 minutes away, so things started to pile up and I'm like, I don't have the time, so after things are full, I'm just gonna throw it in the trash.
Yeah, the Cincinnati reuse recycle place is pretty good, I mean, they're not far from here. I know where you live, but.
Yeah, but hauling my trash around all day until I get done with school, it's just,
That's
You know,
true.
but on the weekends when I'm
School has a
running-
bin, so.
yeah.
In fact, you could bring your home garbage to school.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be more of a pain than driving 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I don't know, I've been pretty busy.
anyway, that recycle center is pretty good to go to, I mean,
Yeah.
someone said they were gonna go there and stuff.
I'll get to it. They have some interesting things going on. So yeah, since this class, got a Brita filter, huge achievement. A washable duster. I went through a bunch of those yellow dusters, and then, instead of paper towels, just Dollar Tree cleaning rags. Yeah, focusing more on cleaning my own recycle. Even though the girlfriend would get on me about not, recycling, she would like not clean out her little Starbucks bottle and then throw it in there. I'm like, what are you doing? So, it's kind of been a more conscious thing. And then also researching sources from class on where to throw off my hard to throw away items. Got 2 microwaves in the basement right now I'm trying to get rid of. You can't throw those in the trash, so somewhere like the hub is a good place to go. I did find a closer drop off, a closer recycle drop off. It's only 9 minutes away, so not like a big time sink. And then also, since classes started, bringing up waste management concerns to the sustainability team of work. So at work, we make valves, we make PFA lined valves, and I work in the plastics processing where we mold those parts. A lot of our extruded and a lot of our purge goes to the bin, and I didn't really know where that went after that. Found out I was just going in the dumpster, so I was like, hey guys, we're throwing away, barrels of plastic, but, forever chemical type of deal. It's not a great thing. So bringing up those concerns at work.
Might get you fired.
Yeah, they're not hiring me. I'm not too worried about it. My last day is next Friday. I'll let you guys know. Frank throws a lot of plastic in the trash. But yeah, so now this class is over. Oh, sorry to the guy in Zoom. I realized I was muted.
Oh.
No, it's picking it up.
Oh, yeah. I do that often.
Yeah, the engineer better.
Yeah. All right. All right. So after class, so yeah, obviously start going to the closer drop off. More realistic, and then, start setting up a weekly cadence, kind of forcing myself to go this. Drop off the recycle, now that I don't have a job in 2 weeks, might, might, be a little bit easier, and then. I don't remember things, so like. Posting what the drop off takes on the bin would really help me out, and then, the drop off that I do go to, or that I will be going to next time I do, is a Rumpke, so they take the hefty renew. So buy a third trash can for that, start doing that, and then got a lot of purging to do, in the basement, haven't really had time to unpack, so taking like the electronic wastes and like other things I can't throw away, can't throw in the recycle bin, taking that to somewhere like the reuse hub or a closer alternative. So why now? So this is just a general, why do we need to be throwing things away in the recycle instead of in the trash can? We learned in this class, it's a problem, right? Like Mitch said, only 9% of us are recycling what we can. There's a lot of weight to what Mitch was talking about, which is we don't do it, so it's not gonna happen, and whatever we yell at the plastic manufacturers about, it doesn't force us as a consumer to do the right thing. So like, what else has this done? So, actually, I forget her name, the fabrics lady from, DAP was talking about how we buy a bunch of clothes and then they just pile up and then we either throw them away or we send them off to charities and then it's too much for the charities. I was helping a buddy move 2 months ago and he handed me a box that's like this big. And he's like, be careful with this. This is all the clothes that I own. I didn't think I had that many clothes, but I 10 times what this guy had. And it was kind of inspiring to be like a little bit more minimalist and less materialistic about things. We don't need everything that we consume, so just, I don't know. Keeping, making more conscious decisions. Also found that I mean, I've been working in plastics. I'd like to continue working in plastics. It's what I've been doing over the past year, so more processing, but there's still an aspect of that, like our purge, they extrude it that we're not using. What do we do with that? You know, being more, not throwing it in the dumpster. And then also just more sustainable improvements in my life. Always growing up, we always had, you know, every house that I ever attended always had a garden. The girlfriend's a big biology, like environmental person, so he's already got plans for the backyard and building a garden and everything like that. Doing the whole composting thing, so looking more into that, trying to be more healthy to the environment.
Yeah, it wasn't really an intent of this class to convert people, you know?
Well, you know,
Not even really a good
wasn't
trade.
exactly an A student in the recycling department before this, so.
That was pretty good, though.
Yeah. But that's all I got.
All right, no, that's great.
Yeah.
Uh, Cadence. Yeah, so, yeah, Cadence has, anyway, there's a lot of different things coming.
I have a lot of things, but I'm gonna skip over like the information that we all know, like I'll. But I'm not.
Yeah, right, so nothing is functioning. So you never find it. You don't have it, it's my computer.
I mean, I have it on my computer, but do you have like an 8?
Yeah, if you have your computer, you bring it
I
up.
can only connect via like the HDMI, like I don't have that.
Oh,
Like,
right.
Like.
Yeah, you can do that. Should I, is this starting to? I can't.
Yeah.
Why don't I sign into mine? So it's just.
Look at that first one. All right. Now click.
Okay, all right, that's exactly what I need. I need to there. All right, now I need to do accountants on it. See, on mine, it's all set up and just goes log out. I didn't log out. Did I do something on there? It didn't log out, right? It's still Mitch. Why?
Logged on to his
Are you logging in? All right, why don't you go ahead and do it? Because I'm failing here.
That's fine. I'll just connect to my OneDrive because I have no idea.
Right. I think this computer will always be Mitch viewer, as far as I can see. All right.
Wait, it's Mitch
Okay.
again. It's a, see that? It's a Mitch. But I will hear, oh, did you find it?
I don't know. If you have it, we can just try to. We can just try. Okay.
Let's do Zoom on this.
Sorry, guys. The new Macs don't do anything. You can't connect to
That's fine.
it unless you buy $1 million worth of Apple product.
Okay, then I think I have to just go here. So everyone can use my computer, I guess. That's probably just the easiest. Yes.
Okay, hi everyone. If you don't know who I am, my name is Cadence and this presentation is actually more like kind of a pre-presentation of what I'm going to like end up presenting to hopefully my church group because I wanted to make a proposal for my church to start a recycling program. So basically I'm talking about reducing waste in like just your own community. So just like a really quick background, we all know that recycling is important after taking this class, but right now the current US recycling rate is at 32%, and by 2030 we'll want it to be at 50%, which is a huge jump, especially considering the fact that 76% of recyclables are lost just at the home level. And from all the speakers that we've seen, we all know that companies want to increase their sustainability goals, but literally you cannot do that without consumer participation. Like we need to recycle in order to get those recyclables back to then further progress our sustainability goals as a whole entire society. I have a lot of personal takeaways, which is mainly like I have been recycling, but like I kind of haven't been doing all the things. Like I did not ever think that if I opened a can of chicken, I could rinse out the can of chicken and then recycle it. I was just like, oh, there's food, it's bad. So I just know a lot more now, which is really interesting, but also just there's a lot of other companies that I use, like such as like Pharmacy, which is a skincare brand, where I can send back like my empty like skincare products to Pharmacy and even other competitor products, and they're gonna recycle some of my like hard to recycle products I use on an everyday basis. So I just really encourage like looking into what you have in your own life to see like what programs some of your favorite brands might be doing. So pretty much my plan from here is to increase my own recycling rates, have a little bit more mindfulness when I'm buying clothes, because as us girly pops know, we do like to buy a lot of clothes. I want to continue to educate my friends and family when I can. and then creating this recycling proposal for my church. So getting more into that. My recycling proposal for my church is pretty much just based on like recycling on Sunday. And so this upcoming spring, our church is going to move into a full-time location, so we'll actually have the ability to have a recycling program. And my idea is if we can get a bin or like one of those Rumpke bins, we could just like have it somewhere on like the drive up, have people basically park their car, have a team come out, just put their recyclables in the bin, put that can back in the car, and then everyone can go on into church as planned. I did talk to Rumpke and get some quotes on how much this would cost. So there is a one-time fee of $120 for that overall dumpster. And then every other week service is $101. And if this is not currently financially feasible for my church, we are able to partner with the Cincinnati like Reuse and Recycling Center, because I also did talk to them as well. And they will fund like little tiny bins that we can use in signage if we want to start with a couple of hard to recycle plastics, such as plastic bags, plastic straws, etc. If we want to start small with things that like aren't going to cost the church too much money to start with. So
I wonder how many people have home pickup already.
I have that in this slide kind of.
Okay.
So 63% of people in multifamily homes, like any apartment or like duplex situation, are excluded from recycling based off of the type of housing that they're in. And 25% of single family homes don't have access to recycling.
Is that in Cincinnati or in the world?
It's just in the United States in general, but I also do know that when you're outside of the greater Cincinnati area, then you start to have to pay for recycling, and sometimes people just simply can't afford that. Like that's not on like their list of things to purchase. If your apartment community doesn't have recycling, like some of that stuff is just out of your hands. And especially because a lot of people at my church are so young, I'm like, I know that there are college students who don't have like an ability to recycle. So the church could finance basically this like front so that we could all have an opportunity to recycle, but also it's just like a great way to educate our community as well. So I highlighted a couple of things I thought were really important when I am talking to my church leaders, which is the first one is just the environmental impact that we have when we do recycle. We all know that it has waste reduction. We know that there's energy conservation because recycling plastics in return, it produces less CO2 and carbon emissions. And then also we're just protecting the earth. And so not all of you guys are going to resonate with this, but when I'm talking to my church leaders, I'm going to quote some Bible scriptures. And the first one that I thought of when thinking about this part in particular was Job chapter 8, verses 8 through 11, which says, "Ask the former generation and find out what their ancestors learned. For we were born only yesterday and know nothing, and our days on earth are but a shadow. Will they not instruct you and tell you? Will they not bring forth words from their understanding? Can papyrus grow tall where there is no marsh? Can reeds thrive without water?" I think that verse 11 is pretty obvious there. Like, we're not going to be able to have any plants if we don't have any water. And sometimes we see the trajectory of where things are going in terms of environment, we get a little scared. But also just as kind of our responsibility to learn from the generations before us, but also to know that in the end, like we are going to teach the generations coming back down on the line. So let's start off with like making sure that like we're being a generation who's really setting up for success with our environmental impact. The next part is just a positive public perception. I think that a lot of people see a lot of times in the news that like Christians are kind of getting a lot of backlash. There are a lot of times that we can be extremely hypocritical. There's always scandals and stuff. And it is really heartbreaking as a Christian to see that, because I know that's not what we stand for. But I do think that having a recycling program could really start to combat these negative perceptions that we have on our faith. And so for this one, I quoted James chapter 4, verses 11 through 17, which says, "Now listen, you who say today or tomorrow, we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why? You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is a sin for them." I think that this just really highlights a lot of the hypocrisy that the Bible is specifically calling us Christians out on. If we know what something is something to do that is good is, we should be doing it. And I think that is just objectively clear and obvious that recycling is good. And for our church to ignore doing such an important task in our society, then I think that that's extremely hypocritical and it reflects as a sin for our whole entire community. Then I wanted to talk about leadership by example. Our church is really big about trying to build a legacy and inspiring others. And so I decided to quote Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 for this, which says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." And so I think that at first, starting a recycling program, we might feel like we're not really making that much of a difference, but if we know and we trust in God's plan, at some point, even if it's not in this generation or further generations to come, people are going to look back on all the efforts that we made on recycling and really see how much of a change that we made. Then another benefit is community engagement. We can serve our community. We can provide educational opportunities. We can strengthen our relationships and also have potential outreach. And so for this, I quoted Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 through 4, which says, "Do nothing out of self-ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of each other." Service is a huge part of our church. We believe that service is our privilege, not our responsibility. And so when we talk about service, we always talk about humility, but we also talk about humbling ourselves. And when we humble ourselves, it's thinking less of your own personal self, but thinking of others more. And being able to like recycle and being really focused on recycling is just thinking about yourself less. Like, yeah, is it annoying to rinse a can before you throw it in the recycling? Is it annoying to have to bring something somewhere to like have it be recycled? Yes. But in doing those acts, you're thinking less of yourself, you're humbling yourself so that you can think of others more and the greater good for the rest of the environment. And then the last point that I'm making is having a stewardship of creation, which is really focusing on having a faith-based responsibility. So for this, I decided to quote Luke chapter 16, verses 9 through 12. "I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own?" If you're not familiar with Christian literature and scripture, we believe that God created the heavens and the earth and that he gave humans dominions over the heaven, not over heaven, definitely just the earth. But so that means that like we have the right to this earth and we have the right to use the fruits of this earth for our own benefit. But just because we have the rights to do that, that doesn't mean that we can't, that we shouldn't be taking care of the earth as well. Simply the earth is someone else's property. We believe that it is God's property. So if we're not trusting this property that God has been given to us, then like, why should we be entitled to having a place in heaven? I would also argue that earth is some sort of form of wealth as well, because you have to pay for land on a house. Like every single part of land is like in theory, like someone's property that you have to pay for. So if we're not trusting our own properties and the things that we own, like who would trust us with the true riches of being in heaven and eternal salvation? And so I just think that it's really important that we also be stewards of what has been given to us. And so my point in all of that being, some of you are probably not Christians, and that's totally okay. But I want to give this presentation to like try to inspire you to think of how you can impact your own communities. You know, whether you might not be a part of a church, and that's a-okay, but you have other things that you're a part of. You might be a part of a book club. You have friends and family outside of what you do for school and work. And I would just encourage you to try to think outside of the box and see of what little differences that you can make. Because even if you can only convert one person into making a recycling difference, that's still one more person who was recycling than before. And so that's what I'm trying to do, just impacting my communities, and my church happens to be my main priority and my main community that I'm a part of. Questions?
Interesting because well, we talked about regulations, we talked about litigation.
Two of us had to go.
Volunteer groups and things. But that was really think about religion. It's like
Yeah.
the mechanism for change, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I thought it was pretty worthwhile to present with it. It's a different way to look at it, like we can't, if the regulations aren't gonna work for us, which they aren't. Litigation is pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paper religion or something.
Yeah, I feel like the church has a lot of outreach, not even like one particular, but like.
I mean, if you look at like the Vietnam War and the Central America stuff, it was the church that really forced those changes.
Yeah.
A big part of it. So,
Yeah,
yeah, maybe the recycling is the same thing. Maybe that's how the US does.
yeah. I'm talking to someone tonight about it. I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah.
So this is my practice.
Yeah, it's difficult to talk, you know, I'm glad that you did that.
Yeah.
It's difficult to say what you believe. You know?
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, all right, so,
No, I don't think anybody was supposed to go next. I think that was.
Dude, so I have like, 10 other people. Right?
Yeah.
You want to quit or you want to keep going? That we should.
If I keep going, can I make him keep going? Because he's after me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Mutual pain. Let's do it. Did you feel the wheels hit you? Yeah, I know. I did. Did you feel the wheels hit you as you ran under the bus?
Nice.
It should just be, yeah, plastic, it's fine.
Probably.
You're just changing titles in my house.
No, that's the right one.
Yeah, yeah, I know, too.
Oh.
That's on that page. All right, I'm ready to go.
Hey, that's my thing.
Yeah, I got a number.
All right, I am Austin Menzie. I'm doing the past, present, promising future of the paper industry. Part of the reason I chose the paper industry is my first 3 co-ops were all with a paperboard company. What I'm covering is mainly what's called virgin paper companies, ones that take in wood chips from the bark and things like that, and create paper, not necessarily recycled. So the origins of paper can be traced all the way back to 105 AD in China, where it was first made with mulberry, rags, and linens, and that process pretty much stayed the same all the way until the 18th century, where paper was generally made by getting fibrous things such as the reeds that made papyrus, rags, linens. Fun fact, the term rags to riches comes from this. There was a point where rags were in such short demand that everybody was buying them up, so if you had a surplus of rags, you could sell them all off, rags to riches. But right around the 18th century or the 19th century, it was found out that wood pulps and other paper pulps were a lot more efficient and a lot better at creating papers that were better for retaining ink. They kept their structural integrity when they got wet, when they got soaked with ink and other things. And so that's kind of when the whole paradigm shifted. And
It was probably cheaper too, right?
yeah, it's a lot easier to find that than the already processed cottons and other things. And the old methods, as mentioned up there, extremely slow. It's kind of, you imagine making wine by stomping on the grapes versus nowadays when we have giant distilleries and things like that. So as I mentioned, the modern paper process, these are gigantic machines. I mean, I've worked next to them. They're also extremely hot. Not fun in the summer when you're in Georgia. So what happens nowadays is they cut down multiple different types of trees, softwood, hardwood, strip the bark, chip it down. And if it's a virgin plant, they throw it into what's called a digester or a pulper with something called white liquor, which is just a bunch of different chemicals that help break down the lignin, the natural glue that holds all the wood fibers together.
So it's sulfur things like.
Yes.
Sulfuric acid.
It has sulfates, sulfites, thiosulfate.
So it smells pretty bad.
Oh, it smells like money.
Okay.
So once you make this pulp, the issue is you have the byproduct called black liquor. And then you have your pulp, which is what the paper is made of. And this pulp can vary greatly, depending on the paper you're making. For example, the paper that we all write on requires a lot less concentrated of a pulp than if you're making the paper that goes in your cereal, right? That's a paper board, that real thick 30-point stuff. The machines themselves, like I said before, it was kind of like stomping on grapes. Now, what happens is you have the giant felt sheet that comes through and it goes underneath this pulp and it kind of picks it up. And you have a giant sheet of this pulp that goes through a bunch of different rollers, as you can see in the bottom picture. That's what the vats would be that hold the pulp and everything like that. It'll go through rollers to press it, get most of the water out, and then the top point is the dryers, where it'll go through and steam hits it from underneath to drop it out. Okay, yeah, so early methods, stomping on grapes. Nowadays, I believe it was Voith I looked at, they have a machine that they boast can run 3,900 feet per minute of paper continuously. Now mind you, that is ideal. A lot of the times paper doesn't want to do what you want it to do. But some of the improvements were not only the speed, but also the automation, right? It's a lot of work to boil all these pulps and all that. Whereas now we have the digesters that do everything you want. We have automatic pulpers. We have the entire machine that runs it for you. You have entire machines that can take these giant rolls of paper, cut them in half, split them, separate them, and package them up nicely for you. And something that I was kind of proud of with the mill that I worked at is paper is actually really good about recycling and using recycled products. So as of 2022, the papermaking industry boasted a recycling rate of 67.9%, or about 50 million tons of paper made from, recycled paper. It is a slightly different process. The plant that I worked at, you essentially, let's say Walmart or these other big corporations, when they're done with their cardboard boxes, they bale them up into these massive bales and the plants buy them. And so if you have really high grade, nice paper, you don't really need to throw as much of the nice wood chips that have the really fresh, long wood fibers you need. You can just throw your bales directly in and start pulping. And additionally, from the last point, it doesn't require this white liquor, and you don't get black liquor as a result. All these harsh chemicals and these toxic pollutants. And this is where we face the issues with paper. The virgin plants, that leads to a lot of deforestation. We need a lot of trees to make a lot of paper. As much as we like to do digital and everything nowadays, paper is still a massive industry. Everybody still needs it. You walk in the morning and you have a notebook in front of you when you're going to class. Your professors are giving you exams on paper, right? So these plants, we have a lot of recycling, but part of the issue is the pollution from the white liquor and the black liquor. Because these chemicals, when they come out, it's the same issues you have with a lot of different industries. They're very, very toxic to the ecosystems, and there's not really a solid way yet to quite get them out without extensive, extremely expensive treatment, specifically sulfurs. Sulfurs are very difficult to get out, and they're very harmful to the environment. As you can see here linked, the disruption to ecosystems, it kind of talks about if these paper plants, let's say they're in an area that floods because all of them need to be close to water, it ruins the water ecosystem. It can render the fish, the local wildlife sterile. It completely just devastates the plants, everything like that. So moving forward, some of the methods that have been kind of looked at to help separate some of these pollutants from the wastewater you get are membranes. And as anybody that's in chemical engineering knows, membranes are pretty new to the industry, unlike distillation columns and other things. So it's still a new technology. They're not quite sure how to best implement it, but I think it's definitely a step in the correct direction. My most recent co-ops, I worked at a plant that created liquid chlorine, and the old method used mercury, it used asbestos, it used a lot of these different harmful things. But the moment we switched over to membranes, we have the same grade of high quality 96 to 99% chlorine, but you don't have any of the harsh mercury and asbestos that you used to, with only a slight.
Asbestos in paper?
No, this is different. This is a different thing. Sorry.
Oh,
Side
it's a
tangent.
filtration kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this would be kind of a filtration where you take your
The
wastewater.
mercury, like separates metals or something, is that the idea, or?
Mercury is very versatile. Yeah, it helps separate your carbonates and the other things that you get from brine. I was just making a side tangent.
All right.
Really different industry.
All right.
Sorry about that. I like to do side tangents.
No, I just wondered.
But these membranes would just kind of help with the wastewater treatment, because at the moment, what a lot of these paper plants have are, you have giant retention ponds that are just filled with all this pollutant.
Yeah.
And at the moment, what they do is kind of flocculation. You put something special in there to help it all group together, and then you can kind of skim it out, and then you can handle it. But instead of dealing with all this wastewater and potential flooding and it getting out of containment, a membrane can help already kind of sift that out, so your wastewater is easier to treat, and your heavies like sulfates, thiosulfates, potassiums, carbonates are all in one nice little spot. Let's see. And so a big one that I always thought when I was listening in on the issues with the plant I worked at was we need better regulation of these companies, because when you get your recycled cardboard and papers coming in, the issue is these fibers that have already been chopped up and messed with and crossed over and everything, they aren't quite as long and as nicely holding as they used to be. And some of these are worse than others. If you have a nice cardboard box, it's the first time it's ever been recycled, it's gonna have nice, usable fibrous strands. But if you have something that's made from, let's say, corn, it's only really meant to be used once, it has really short fibers, it's not very economical to use in a plant. Well, you don't really know that until you get the bale in and you see it in your line. And by then you've already kind of spent the money, because there isn't any regulation really with these companies. It's kind of a trust thing. Like, you have a contract, I'm gonna buy this much, but I just trust that whatever you give me is what I need and it's good. So I kind of likened it to where the FDA, like, farmers in these supermarkets, they already have a deal, right? But if a farmer's going to the supermarket, the FDA also steps in and says, hey, it has to be up to our regulations too. Like, it's not just we trust you, you have to be up to our standards that you're not gonna poison everyone. So that was kind of where my mind went in terms of how we could improve it.
Well, I mean, this kind of regulation doesn't really exist in the US, so, but what people are doing is like they're making these industrial groups that kind of make their own regulation, like.
Yeah, almost like unions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the guy, who was it, someone came in, Trenner, right, or someone came in from Cleveland, right, and talked about that, but, or Trenner's group, right, the thing that. So it's an alliance of whatever paper or whatever,
Yeah.
when you set up an office in Washington, you get everyone to chip in something, they stamp it really well, right, label,
Yeah.
it's good paper. I think that's how the US is gonna go, it's not gonna be regulation.
I mean, yeah, we already have solid unions, so that. Oh,
Yeah, there's something
So-
like that, I guess, but.
You, Andrew, decide, because I ran out of time. Can you still make it?
I know.
Start, yeah.
I shouldn't even mind that.
I meant like saying like final presentation was given, or we should just submit our final presentation again, like it was like 1 point and.
But it's a picture for.
Oh, that was supposed to be to show up here, I was supposed to write on the board, that's a picture, yeah. Yeah,
Take a picture.
well, I'll just write.
Here. Professor Buckland? Oh, you already have it.
I think some people are.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
RIP if you left.
Mine's 100 right there. I'll need it.
Bro, what you mean you do it? Just, nah.
I need it. Oh, I need it.
And thanks for attending all you guys.
Yeah. Other than the complete aside that I'm also confused in the recording. Yeah.
Because I know where you work.
Yeah,
Presenting is good. I mean, I need to practice it. Yeah, I didn't.
for that being completely unpracticed and everything, I'll take it.
I'll take this. Well, especially if it's so like low stakes.